Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The first of two press conferences for the Joseph Parker Hughie Fury fight later this week has been held, and boy, it was a doozy. Let's crack into it. Here is Parker's promoter David Higgins of Duco Events firing off at Peter Fury, Hughie's father and trainer, over the appointment of English referee Terry O'Connor.
It's $14.99 in the UK and $16.99 in euros in Ireland.
We want to hear all this from you in a minute, because all of you've done is squeal all the time. Really? Squealing like a pig. You know what?
Gentlemen, you'll get
what you do. You're lucky on talkers. You'll sell more TV because I fire up.
Gentlemen, you'll get
You're
your
fucking
chance.
saver, mate.
You'll get your chance.
Hey, guess what? You can't win. Hey, because of the referee, you can't win. Take another line.
You will have your opportunity. Everybody will have their opportunity to ask questions of everybody on this top table, in due course. Now is not the time or place for this. Okay?
And anything you want to fucking do about it with your bodyguards, come here. Listen, who gives a fuck about you anyway?
Go on, Snow White.
Hey? Take a fucking line. Who gives a fuck about you? Or your fucking bodyguards? You come from the street. Fuck off. Dickhead. Squealing like a pig. Don't belong in fighting circles. Let the men fight. Fucking dummy.
David Higgins and latterly Peter Fury getting into it with each other in that clip. So Hughie Fury on Twitter did suggest that Higgins had been arrested outside, but I did check with Duco and they say that did not happen. See on screen, adding it was an opportunity for Higgins to make a point about the referee. Okay, sure, so that's the face value answer, but in my view, it's not the only thing going on here, not the only thing here at play. Consider this. We've had a super low-key build-up led by Hennessy Sports, which promotes Fury. It has struggled to gain the public's interest and struggled to sell tickets. And I'll have more on that in a moment. So you might ask, well, what does that have to do with Duco? It's already had Parker's purse paid in advance of the fight. But remember, Duco Events still has an iron in the fire here financially. It owns the broadcasting rights for New Zealand, Australia and Samoa. And for New Zealand and Australia, Duco has the fight on pay-per-view at close to $40. With the very fact that the fight is overseas and more out of sight to the general public than usual, and that it will air at a different time of the day to the normal Parker fight times, there was probably always going to be a drop in pay-per-view buys compared to if the event was staged in New Zealand. So throw in the non-existent promotional effort from Hennessy Sports, and I'm sure Duco would have been looking at the situation going, geez, the chances of us making a bundle of cash on this, especially since it doesn't have any overheads, well, it was starting to go up in smoke. So when you consider that alongside the outburst, it makes a lot of sense and dollars. It really is a play straight out of the White Chisora playbook. You know, it's drumming up those headlines. And boy, did it drum up headlines, leading sports bulletins across New Zealand throughout the day and getting its fair share of attention across the world. It's probably given this fight the most exposure it's had thus far, by a long way. And what's the result? All of a sudden, more people are talking about this fight. In case in point, this is a personal example. I was on the train today and people were talking about it. And also when I was at work, people were coming over to me asking me about it. Some of these people aren't necessarily boxing fans, but they do fit that mold of casual fans who might be lured in to buy the fight now. So all of a sudden, for them, they've been reminded it's on. And also that there's some exciting aggro going on. Something big just happened and they want to know what. And David Higgins, he is a very smart man. You don't get to be a millionaire in business by being a dummy. So if he manages to sell another couple of thousand pay-per-view in New Zealand and Australia off the back of this, then the result is not insignificant at almost $40 a pop. Do the math. So a bit of short-term embarrassment for the sake of his business, well, that is an extremely small price to pay. So also consider this as well. The referee issue, that had largely been played out because Duco front-footed that issue and went public with its angst the other day. If that news had have been dropped today, for example, at the press conference, and it had have escalated into some sort of Higgins meltdown, then it would have felt more credible. But my view, this was a stunt, a publicity stunt, designed to get us talking and grab some column inches. In that respect, it's been a complete success. But side note, Joseph Parker was clearly unaware that anything like this was going to happen, telling Television New Zealand, a link in the description here, he's not usually like that. I'm not quite sure why he did that. It reflects on our team. So Mick Hennessy, Hughie's promoter, he weighed in on this as well on Twitter, saying Higgins embarrassed himself and he needs to seek rehab. So Peter Fury went a little bit further and even sort of said, well, you can sue me over this sort of stuff, Higgins, and said he was pissed and had a few lines up his nose. Really though, this could help also drive a few more people to the Manchester Arena and boost the live gate, because clearly it needs that, because ticket sales have been a bit of a disaster. So a quick preamble here. A number of days ago, I asked Hennessy Sports via Twitter if 3,000 tickets had been sold, because media were reporting that. They said it was fake news. But clearly it was closer to being real news than they wanted to admit, because at the presser, Mick Hennessy confirmed just 5,000 tickets had been sold for the event. That means only a quarter of the stadium at this stage will be full. So Hennessy says they have allowed for a maximum of 10,000 people. So at best, Parker and Fury will be fighting in a half-empty arena. It begs the question, why are they even fighting there? But what really infuriated me about the ticket sales was the way Mick Hennessy tried to explain it away, almost blaming the fighters for it. Here's his quote from the press conference. "We're not expecting to sell out stadiums. Of course we're not. These are two young fighters making their name for the heavyweight world title. We laid it out for 10,000, we've done 5,000, and we're looking to do as close to 10,000 as possible. But that's not the point. These two young fighters will build their name in this fight, and then everyone worldwide will know who they are." What an absolute cop-out. That's utter tripe. Say, ticket sales, they might have been much better for this fight if Hennessy Sports had bothered to push the promotional work, if they'd actually done some work up front in the last couple of months. But Hennessy is right when he says Parker and Fury's profiles in Britain aren't the best. But how can they be expected to grow their presence if the fight isn't even being promoted with an adequate lead-in time? I mean, you really need to put in a huge effort to sell it to people. The idea of the fight, what's on the line. Make it emotive. Make people want to see it. From all accounts from my subscribers in the UK and even in Manchester itself, they've barely heard or seen a peep of activity. You can't just leave things to the last couple of weeks to push the fight. You can't announce the broadcast details 2 weeks before the fight and expect miracles. And why is the undercard so terrible? One of the oldest tricks in the book is to stack the undercard with big names to generate much more interest from fans, to help support the main event. But we don't have this. We've got a bunch of lightweight guys hardly anyone has ever heard of. Just off of the top of your head right now, try name 3 or 4 of the fights. Both fighters in each fight. It's not easy, is it? So if a lot of boxing fans aren't interested in the undercard, what is there to draw in the casuals? The only thing that I've seen is the stunt that Higgins has just pulled. And he's not even running the promotion. But if he was, I'm sure his view would be to pack out the 12,000 Vector Arena in Auckland, which he did for the Parker Ruiz Jr. fight. This is where these two promoters are diametrically opposed. Higgins would expect to fill the arena on Parker's name alone. He would be ruining the fact that there's no bigger or better indoor stadium in Auckland to hold the fight at. For me, the rest of the presser, well, it was pretty much as I expected it would be. The fighters, they were largely gassing it up about how good they feel, what they'll be doing in the ring, their desire, and how they will be the victor. The fact Higgins stole the show on a side issue serves as a reminder that Hennessy Sports have not generated enough hype for this fight. The only thing that will top this now is if Higgins throws a table at the final presser a la Derek Chisora. This build-up, it pretty much needs something like that now just to keep the newfound momentum going. And I think one of the best lines that I heard either in the presser or in the after interviews was one from Kevin Barry to IFL TV, where he said Hughie Fury is going to need a wand to knock Joseph Parker out. That's quite good. That's quite good. So what do you make of this all? I mean, Higgins' outburst. Do you really just think it's about the referee? Because I don't. What do you make of it? And what do you make of this whole ticket situation? 5,000, 1 quarter sold? Man, that really is a bit of a tragedy for this fight because it's a heavyweight title fight. I don't believe it has had the due attention and promotion that it does deserve. And if it was held somewhere else with another promoter, I think it would have fared better. But, you know, we've got a few days left. Let's see if they can get another 1,000 or 2 in. You know, I think that's really pushing it to say that they'll get up to 10,000. But, you know, sometimes miracles do happen. I mean, maybe Hughie will pull out a wand. We'll just have to see. But drop a comment, hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.